Welcome to the Forged by Trust podcast. I'm your host, Robin Dreeke, former U.S. Marine, spy recruiter, best-selling author, and your trust and communication expert. Today's episode is brought to you by my guest, DJ Hillier, and his life-changing MiFit Podcast. DJ has produced over 200 episodes available on any major podcast platform. He speaks with world-class athletes, coaches, entrepreneurs, authors, keynote speakers, doctors, scientists, and leaders. Mondays are a 5-minute weekly wisdom bit from him, and Tuesday are an hour-long interview with one of his intriguing guests. You can check out our episode together, which is episode number 181. Coming up next on the Forged by Trust podcast.
The championships are in relationships. I think another part too is just understanding and learning how important servant leadership is and how being a leader is not all about you. It's about serving a team, serving others, the power of manners. Always to be thankful, always to show gratitude, say your pleases and thank yous, and respect your elders. Something I've learned over the years, Robin, is that not only does everybody have a voice in their head, but a majority of people's voices in their minds are very destructive and mean. Stay curious a little bit longer, because most of us can do it, Robin, for about 60 seconds. But can we do it for 5 minutes? Can you do it for an hour? Can you do it for a lifetime? In order to get into flow, we got to be 4%. What is 4% above my threshold? Just a little bit outside my comfort zone, Robin, just enough to keep me there.
Welcome to the show. I'm Robin Dreeke, and on the Forged by Trust podcast, we decode the interpersonal communication skills of the world's most acclaimed forgers of trust. We unlock the skills and techniques from spies, spy recruiters, master interrogators, globally recognized behavioral experts, C-suite executives, entrepreneurs, acclaimed authors, and thought leaders. Each episode provides specific actions that you can immediately apply to any aspect of your personal or professional life. Today's episode, Train, Educate, and Inspire, was with my great friend and life fitness inspiration, DJ Hillier. DJ Hillier is the host of the MiFit Podcast, fitness coach, business owner, and CrossFit Games athlete. Physical fitness and podcasting are two of his life passions, and his goal is to train, educate, and inspire those who want to improve their general health. DJ is dedicated to helping everyone. DJ's podcast episodes capture a wide spectrum of topics, including training, coaching, nutrition, entrepreneurship, relationships, and mindset. DJ has taken his life's pursuit of fitness and coaching and expanded into all aspects of life and well-being. During today's episode, we talk about servant leadership, the power of manners, 7 keys to insightful conversations, hitting your flow state, and your overall wellness.
Robin, how are you?
Good, DJ. How are you?
Hey, thanks for making this happen.
Welcome. This is my first Jedi of fitness and wellness I've ever had on.
Awesome, man. I'm excited for the opportunity.
Oh, me too. Just to kind of kick off the why behind this for folks listening, that I was on your show, and what was really impressive to me was, man, you are one in-depth researcher. Your systems and processes for figuring someone out was really in depth. Matter of fact, it's probably the best interview I've ever been on. And you're a fitness guy. You are all about the whole person. So that's what really impressed me. And then when you look at your podcast, the MiFit Podcast, all the guests you have on there are from every walk of life for wellness. So anyway, thanks for taking the time.
Hey, man, I really appreciate it. It was a joy to have you on the show. We had a lot of people that enjoyed it. I love your books. And yeah, it's been a fun relationship that we've built so far.
Absolutely. And that's the fun part of doing the podcasting and having this world as we forge these great relationships. But I want to really understand where this all started from. And we're going to hit these themes. I loved it when I went to your website to try to come up with a show title. And it really struck. It's simple. Train, educate, and inspire. And that last word, inspiration, is so vital and key because it has to come from within. So what inspired you to start this journey? Where did it all start?
Great question. So I grew up playing every sport there possibly was. I remember whatever was on TV, I was going outside to play. If I was watching Remember the Titans, I wanted to go play football. If I was watching anything with the Mighty Ducks, I wanted to go play hockey. So I was obsessed with sports.
And where'd you grow up?
Yeah, Lakeville, Minnesota, where I am now. And so I grew up.
So I got a large audience that spans the globe. Describe Minnesota, because I get it kinda, but describe Minnesota for folks listening so they get a context of what it meant to go outside in Minnesota, especially in the middle of the winter.
Yeah, sometimes people ask why I choose to live here, but there's those 3 months out of the year, 2 months maybe, that are just amazing. And that summertime into the fall, to me, there's no better place. But yes, the winters are what people think they are, below zero, several feet of snow, and sometimes it can last from anywhere from October all the way to April. So you never know what you're going to get when it comes to weather here. But I think we all stick around because of those 2 months are pretty spectacular, which is kind of where we're ending that right now, going into October. There's something about fall in Minnesota that's just so unlike anything else.
Beautiful. All right. So continue with the getting outside and doing every sport you possibly saw on TV.
Yeah. So we played a lot of sports growing up. We had a neighborhood group of kids that were always into any sort of sport. It didn't matter what it was. And in high school, I played football and basketball. I was the captain of my team in football and had the chance to go play college football after that at a Division III school here in St. Paul, Minnesota. And after about 2 years, I was just kind of losing the juice of playing the sport. And at the Division III level, there aren't a lot of scholarships. And so you're kind of having to do a part-time job without getting paid, is kind of what I was telling people. And I was just losing the juice for it. Wasn't finding the love that I used to have. And I felt that in practice. It felt like something that I was forcing myself to go through. And because of that, not only was it affecting me, but I almost felt like it was affecting the people around me. So I took the step out after my sophomore year, stopped playing football. I remember driving home down 35W, and my parents' house was about 30 minutes away from the university. And driving home, I looked to my left and there's a CrossFit gym being built. I was like, oh, that's interesting. CrossFit is, I don't know what that is, but I'm into fitness. I was the guy in high school that came up with and started what was called the Squat Club, which is the team would meet every Friday before school and we'd go through a workout that I would come up with. So some would say
and I'm going to stop you.
Sure.
This is what I do. I'm so sorry. You are really outside doing a lot of things. What inspired that? I mean, what were your parents like? What did they do? Or where this passion originated from?
Yeah, great question. So my mom is a 8th grade English teacher and my dad is a motivational speaker, and he's been doing so for about 33 years. So between the two of them, a lot of time in education, spending time with kids, and honestly, just in leadership. So that was where I was born and raised, and some of the lessons that kind of enrooted.
So tell me more about Dad being a motivational speaker for 35 years. That's really impressive. That's not an easy industry to be in for a long time and provide for a family. So what was that? What did he speak on?
Yeah, it's unique, right? I say that and a lot of people turn their heads because it's just not a very common career path. But yeah, he started coming out of college at Mankato State University and started his own company. He travels the country speaking to mostly high school team leaders and team captains on all things under the umbrella of leadership. He's also written a few books and he's been on my podcast a couple times too. So it's been fun to kind of share that. And moving forward, I'm looking to kind of travel with him and start to get into the speaking world as well. So it'll be kind of fun to see.
Cool. The
where we go together.
Duel.
Yeah.
So here's your dad speaking about leadership to high school teens, and voila, there you are. So that was a big part of your life, would you say?
Yeah, a huge part. I was the kid. I never got close to getting a technical foul. I'll tell you that, because I knew my punishment would be much worse than any other kid on the team. But yeah, of course, the lessons learned. I grew up, I would say at points, I grew up in auditoriums, watching my dad speak and kind of being a part of that. So yeah, very pivotal parts of my life. And I'm just so thankful for the relationship that we have.
So you hit some things earlier in life that I experienced as well. A lot of people do, but I think you might have had a different take on it because of your dad. I'm curious about that. So here you are, you're a team captain, multiple sports, doing a lot of leadership type things, but you actually had a leadership guide and mentor in this. How did you cognate leadership when you were younger? Was that anything that was discussed with you? I'm curious about it because I think you really stand out as a really exceptional, aware young guy. Did you see it differently then?
Yeah, thanks for saying that. Yeah, I definitely did. I think I saw things a lot differently than my teammates did. And a lot of it was just because just being around my dad. I think one thing I learned very early on was that different people are motivated by different things. And to some, that takes a long time for people to understand. Yeah. But he has a couple exercises and drills that people will fill out, and you'll in essence, it's kind of like a personality test, and we can find out a little bit more about who you are, what you're motivated by, and having that data really can help you as a leader when somebody who, I don't know, maybe you don't get along with really well, or they see life a little bit differently, instead of passing judgment or shunning them away, you just kind of realize that, hey, they're in this category and this is how I can relate to them. So I think that that was a pivotal part in that, in being a young leader. I think another part too is just understanding and learning how important servant leadership is, and how being a leader is not all about you. It's about serving the team, serving others. And so being raised upon the principle of being the last one to leave the locker room and making sure you're the first one out there and cleaning up and saying please and thank you to the vendors and people that are feeding you. Those are pivotal life lessons too, making sure that it's not just about us. Yeah, I try to be a servant leader.
Do you remember the first time you actually did that? I mean, that's remarkable at a young age. It really is. I never knew anyone that did that.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, maybe I'm imagining some of this. I thought I did a lot of this. I know my parents, I was thinking about this recently, something my parents really stowed upon me more than I think anything else. And it's such a goofy thing to say out loud, but it was just the power of manners. And these days you really can see when kids do or don't have manners. And it was just something simple as being able to say your pleases and thank yous, and doing that when you're in the house, but also when other parents pick you up from sports, or when you're going through the lunch line at school. I think that was something that, and I laugh a little bit because if they're listening, they'll probably laugh and say that that wasn't intended, but it's just the way that they lived, is always to be thankful, always to show gratitude, say your pleases and thank yous, and respect your elders. That's something that's kind of just stuck with me my entire life, Robin.
Does your dad, I mean, he probably does, but I mean, does he realize the impact, not just as a guy mentoring and coaching leadership to teens, but does he understand the impact of just being a great dad, what that was?
Yeah, I mean, I sure hope so. I want to have him on my podcast soon, and interview him one-on-one to have some of these conversations. But yeah, I mean, I hope so. Our relationship is awesome, Matt. We talk almost daily, and we're just really thankful for him.
So we got these great skill sets and a fantastic foundation at a young age that eventually people do get, but it takes a lot longer. So you're off to college. What was the next step?
Yeah, so I thought football was the answer. I loved football and I loved my teammates. It was great to be a part of at a great school. That was really a privilege to be at. Like I said, I just the juice wasn't there. I stepped away from college
when
sports.
And when you say the juice wasn't there, you've said it a few times. What are you saying? Your energy level was low? What was it?
Yeah, I think energy level was low. Practice turned into something I had to do, not something I got to do. And I really try to create that
framing. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I love that delineation. It's actually a poster, a flag that a member made for me at our gym. It says, you don't have to, you get to. And I learned that lesson pretty early on and started to understand, like, this is feeling more like a chore than something I want to or get to do, putting on these pads. So realizing that, stepped away, drove home, and I saw a CrossFit gym being built. And like I said, in high school, I was the one who came up with our strength and conditioning in the mornings. I was the one writing the programs. And in college,
How were you coming up with these things?
Man, at the time, yes, there was a little bit of internet but there wasn't a whole lot of information on the internet. But I remember Googling, what is LaDainian Tomlinson doing? What is Peyton Manning doing? What are some of these guys doing? And there were a few videos that I would kind of learn from. And that was the spark of me being a personal trainer and a coach, is, coaching other 16-year-old kids how to lift. And I didn't have a lot of validity, but they trusted me because I was the one putting in the work. I was always in the weight room, obsessed with working out. And I think they saw the results kind of follow. So they trusted me a little bit, but to look back on it, the coaches trusted me too.
Wow, you had a lot of curiosity about fitness. So what sparked that curiosity, you think? I mean, diving so deep to create programs for your classmates in high school, that's pretty remarkable.
Man, I've never been asked that. I don't know exactly what it was. Actually I do. I think I was very curious about how much I can move the needle within my control. In sports, there's a lot of things that are outside your control. But when it comes to fitness and working out, that's all inside of your control. And very early on, 8th grade and 9th grade, it doesn't take long for you to start lifting weights and seeing the results in the mirror. And I remember at a very young age seeing biceps and definition. I'm like, wow, I can directly impact how I look and also how I perform. I also knew that at an early age that, I was a talented individual, but talent was only going to get me so far. I knew it was ingrained in me, maybe through my dad, but that the hard work in the weight room was going to be able to push me from a good athlete to what I would call a great athlete. So that I knew that it wasn't just going to come naturally, and I was going to be able to push myself further than my teammates. I always loved the idea of outworking people. I just love being at the gym when I know some people are partying or some people are doing whatever else. It just is something inside me. It's very motivating.
And there's one more thing that you were doing really, really well. You were a great leader because you were making it about everyone else. You're doing the crap jobs. You're making the coaches' lives easier. You're making your teammates' lives easier. So keep going. Sorry.
Yeah. So I see the CrossFit gym being built. I don't know what CrossFit is, but it has the word fit in it. I like fitness. I'm looking for a gym. I'm looking for a way to continue my competitive spirit. So I stopped in, and it was being built. I ran into the owner, who's the owner now, Andrew. I asked him a little about what is CrossFit? What is this space? I'm looking for a place to work out. I just got done playing college football. I'm pretty strong. I'm pretty in shape. What can I do? And he said, hey man, I would love to have you come back. It was the middle of the day on a Sunday. Come back in tomorrow, see what this place is all about. I walk in on Monday, and I just—
How many years ago was this too, by the way?
So, gosh, I'm starting to feel old when I say this here. I'm almost 30, and that was when I was 20. So almost 10 years ago.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
Thank you. Just a frame of reference.
And so I walk in on a Monday in the middle of the day. There's a kid working out there. He says, hey, why don't you just jump in with me? And I remember the story that, he starts putting on the weights, and we were doing what's called a push jerk, which is bringing the barbell from your shoulders to overhead. And we were working up to a heavy 3-rep max. And at the time, this guy who invited me to lift with him, we're the same age. He's a very high level CrossFit competitor. He's just being nice and offering a place for me to work out and jump in with him. And all of a sudden, I'm starting to keep up with this guy a little bit, and we're putting on the same weight on the barbell. And I remember building up to 245 pounds through over my head 3 times. And at that time—
First time you're in the gym?
First time I was working out at this gym with him. And he kind of gives me the look of like, I don't know who you are. I don't know where you came from, but I need you to come back tomorrow. And that was kind of what sprung our relationship. I started to work out more.
And this was a push jerk you did?
Correct.
All right. So for everyone listening, if you don't know Olympic lifting, I want you to go on to YouTube and put in a search engine, push jerk, and you're going to see exactly what that movement is, the technique behind it, and how impressive it is. What 245 went above his head doing that? That is crazy. And what did you go to college for? I mean, what was your whole point?
Yeah, business management. At the time, at 18 years old, like most kids, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. I knew I was very interested in business. My dad obviously had a business background. And I figured that would kind of cover the basis of whatever I go into. Having a business background in your back pocket is probably going to be helpful.
Right. And what position were you in football?
I played running back. Played running back in high school and in college.
Right. All right. So now I'm caught up again. Sorry for the digressions here and there. You're dropping a lot of information I want to figure out. So keep going.
Yeah, this is fun. That's fun to kind of relive the glory days. So we work out. He says, I don't know who you are. I don't know where you came from, but I need you to come back tomorrow. And we just started working out. Yeah, we started working out together, started growing a relationship, and I started to really enjoy this gym. It was in my hometown, so I had some connections. And so I started to get into coaching. And
what made it enjoyable for you?
First, I love being in Lakeville. I love being in my hometown and love kind of serving back to the community that gave so much to me. What else did I like about the gym? It was very different than— if you've ever been to a CrossFit gym, very different than a big box gym like a Lifetime Fitness. Much more intimate. You really get to know the people. Nobody's wearing headphones. You're all listening to the same music. Everybody is fighting the same fight. There's a little bit more intimacy. And that was something I hadn't seen before. So I really enjoyed that, and I really wanted more of it. And I was addicted very quickly. So I asked Andrew, what can I do? How can I get more involved? They said they were looking for a part-time coach to get involved with some of the kids' classes. The pay wasn't something super great, but it was like, it'll get you in the door, get you a free membership. So I started there, started working with youth athletes, anywhere from middle school to high school. And, long story short, I ended up staying there, kind of building my clientele, putting in the time, doing things that maybe not a lot of people want to do, went through some of the hard times of what small businesses go through over the last 10 years. And now I've kind of ascended into the director of training. I oversee everything that happens on the floor, and I coach a majority of CrossFit classes and also work one-on-one with student athletes.
So basically doing exactly what your dad was modeling the way for, and that is being of service to youth.
Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah. That's really where it started.
That's amazing. So you come up, you're doing these great things, you're being of great service, but you have this phenomenal attention to detail as well. Where did you come up with the idea to start a podcast? What was that about? And not just the podcast, because you're not just about fitness. What inspired you to kind of branch out and cover all these different aspects of wellness?
Yeah, phenomenal question. In 2015, podcasts were still kind of taking off, and it was my way to really dive into. I was a new coach in the industry and I didn't have a degree in kinesiology or physiology or anything like that. So I had to catch up a little bit. So I used podcasts to help kind of get into that realm. And I found myself getting addicted to podcasting. I was listening to one every single day, a different one every day. It was just a great way for me to learn. Not a huge, at the time, I wasn't a huge reader. This was a great way for me to still do what I was doing and also listen to something in my ears. And a day came where I was like, you know what? I'm listening to all these podcasts every single day. Why not just create my own? I mean, I'm already putting in the time listening to other people. Why not start my own? Why not me? So I started the MiFit podcast. Our gym is called My5 Fitness. So I kind of use that as the name. And Andrew, who brought me on as a coach, also helped kind of start some of the funding of this podcast. And it started purely in fitness. I would say the first 30 shows, I was like, this is a fitness podcast. And it didn't take long, Robin, for me to realize that being fit is not just a physical thing. It's actually much more of a mental and physical thing, mind and body.
Right.
So that was a big eye-opening moment for me. And
what caused that? What caused that aha moment?
I think having conversations with people and hearing them talk more about their mental well-being, their mindset, and how you can't, similar to how you can't outtrain a bad diet, you can't outtrain an unhealthy mindset. And it has to start with the mind. And hearing that over and over made me kind of realize, okay, there's more to this than just fitness. I love the weight room. I would live in the weight room if I was allowed to, but there's much more, not only to life, but I think to your success, healthy well-being than how much you could bench press. It's got to be much more what's in between the ears.
I'd love to go down that rabbit hole a little bit more before we come back center again for you. So you encounter someone, how are you assessing that they might need to do something physically to help the mental, and like, what's your process with that? And what do you recommend first?
Yeah, that's awesome. So I go through a series of 7 questions typically when I try to get a client started. And
I love questions. Go ahead. What are they?
I got this from a phenomenal book called The Coaching Habit by Michael Bungay-Stainer, who came on my show. And this is a great way. It's a great framework for people, for coaches, also a great framework for people, partners, spouses, or people that are a little bit more introverted and they're not really sure how to have conversations in public formats. If you can memorize these 7, you're going to have a lot more insightful conversations. So the first one is what's on your mind. So if we're playing the gym role here, somebody walks into the gym, maybe they're not giving you much, but you can tell they're curious. What's on your mind? It's kind of the kickstart question to get things going. And from there, you might open floodgates. It could be, I'm overweight, this and that. I mean, who knows what you'll bring?
Right.
So what's on your mind can be a very great question to start. The second one he talks about is the best coaching question anybody can ever obtain. So listeners, if you get anything out of this hour, I would probably take this question. It's very simple. It says, and what else?
Yes, that is the greatest coaching. And what else? Yes.
Most people aren't done talking when they finish that first sentence. There's probably more, but we get caught up in just trying to get carried away. So, and what else helps you dive a little bit deeper? So that's 1 and 2. The third question is, what is most challenging here for you? And I love this question. And it allows our audience, our guests, to share their opinion. You know, what is the real challenge here for you? And he talks about those last 2 words need to be in there. If you ask Robin, what's the biggest challenge? They're going to be quick to say, you know, I got kids, I got to be up late, I got this job, blah, 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 blah. They start blaming other people or things around them that are inside or outside of their control. But if you add the word for you, what's the biggest challenge for you? There creates a little bit of ownership in what is the most challenging part for me? Why am I struggling here? And sometimes that question alone, similar to what else is on your mind, can really break through quite a bit. So those are the first 3 foundational ones. I'll pause there if you want to jump in before I go into the next.
These are how you make connections, identify pain points, and start thinking in terms of how can I be a resource for other in terms of those pain points. Perfect. So please keep going. It's so fantastic. I love it.
Awesome. So what's on your mind is the first one. And what else? Number 3 is what's the real challenge here for you? And the fourth one is a simple one. How can I help?
Yes.
So the essence of these 7 questions are to stay curious a little bit longer. And that's the byline of this. And that's kind of this way of life, is how long can you stay curious? He talks about in the book, we all have this, what's called an advice monster, where we just want to spew our advice and opinions to people like that. And what he says is, hopefully I can say this on air, is that your opinions and your advice is shit.
Yes.
And he says that because we don't have enough information to give correct responses. Thus, we need to stay curious a little bit longer. So when you say something about how can I help, it's giving them the direction of, maybe, just maybe, your spouse says, I don't need you to help. I just need you to listen. I don't know about you, Robin. I just got married about a month ago. I'm very new to the game.
Congrats. That's right. I
Thank you.
remember you're going to get married the last time we chatted. Congrats.
Right. But I have learned very early on that sometimes we as men are problem fixers. We want to fix a lot of things. You have a problem, sweetheart, let me fix it. But sometimes you just need to be a listener. And so asking, how can I help, can help enlighten your counterpart to say something along the lines of, I just need you to listen. I just need you to sit with me rather than try to fight through and fix a problem. So how can I help is number 4. Number 5 is probably my favorite one, but it needs to come across the tone needs to be very careful. Number 5 is, what do you want? Now, you could say that in a very demeaning way. What do you want? Or you can say like, what do you want? What is it that you want? Right. Again, it's a simple question, but what you're doing is you're giving ownership power back into their mind, and they can start to paint a picture of, what is it that I want out of my fitness experience here? Like, do I want to lose weight? Do I want to find a community of people? Do I want to find a new, what is it that I want? So that's a big one, number 5. Number 6 is another big one. It's, if you're saying yes to this, what are you saying no to? I like to use this with clients who, I just had a client decide that she wants to run a marathon a year from now, Twin Cities Marathon. This is the question I use right away. If you're saying yes to this goal, what are you saying no to? You're probably saying no to a lot of strength training because you're going to have to spend a lot of time running. You're probably going to be saying no to some late nights. You're probably going to be saying no to alcohol, some other things that go along with it. So weighing some of this stuff can help paint a picture of what is life going to look like if I'm saying yes to this. Somebody comes to the gym, hey, I want to work out 5 days a week. Sounds great. If you're saying yes to that, what are you saying no to? Well, I'm probably going to have to give up happy hours with my coworkers on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Okay, what else? Start to paint a picture. And sometimes, Robin, what happens is that they go through those and they maybe realize, you know what? I don't think this is for me. And that's okay. I'd rather us know now on day 0 than 3 months from now. And you're like, man, like, this is not what I expected this route to be, this marathon training. I didn't expect to have to give up X, Y, and Z. So being able to identify, if you're saying yes to this, what are you saying no to?
Curious on this one. This requires some good, healthy habits. And a favorite book that's mentioned numerous times on my show is Atomic Habits by James Clear. Yep. So using that as a mantra, I thought I remembered you to mention that you had read it as well. How do you make these things that they say they want to give up to do these things? How are you helping them make that a habit?
Great question. This is the art of coaching.
Yeah.
Where do I start? I think first it's understanding, how important is this to you? There's a lot of people that like the idea of losing weight. It's a big one. But how important is it to you? How much work are you actually willing to put in? Are you willing to meal prep? Are you willing to count your macros? Are you willing to give up certain thing, whatever it looks like? I want to first know, as your potential coach, on a scale of 0 to 10, 10 being like, this is number 1 in my life right now. Where are we at? Because as a coach, if you come to me and you say, I want to lose weight, and it's a 3 out of 10, Robin, as a coach, I'm like, then I'm going to probably treat it like a 3 out of 10. I'm not going to put in a 10 out of 10 effort. This isn't a huge deal for you. So I think first, it's got to be really meaningful to where you are. And I think second, everything's got to be in alignment, right? So if you're telling me I want to lose weight and you're eating out all the time, there's a lot of things that have to be in line with your habits. I think another thing that I want to talk about too is setting up your environment to help your habits. If we want to talk about eating, because it's the easy one, I want to eat healthier. but I got a bunch of Doritos and all these chips in my cupboard, and I just keep going back to all these M&Ms. What does your environment look like? How can you create an environment so you're not having to swim upstream? I think some of these things, these little things, can help make the habit easier. But I think going back to where I started is it needs to be important to you. If it's not important to you, it's not going to be important to me. And we're probably just wasting our time. So let's not start a new venture until you know that, this is meaningful. I want to do this.
So if someone wants to start taking some baby steps, what's one small atomic sized thing we can do that can start them on a path to maybe eating healthy, like snacks?
And it's different for everybody too. But there's a couple small things, and it's funny because I think most people nowadays, they think that, or we're starting to get in this world that in order to be healthy, I have to either spend a lot of money on things or have to go to an expensive gym, have to pay for a personal trainer. In reality, Robin, if you want to be healthy, all of this stuff is free. Daily sunlight, gratitude journal, move every single day. Try the best you can. This is a hard one for people. Wake up and go to bed at the same time every single day. Create a circadian rhythm. Get yourself in front of sunlight, and then have your your nutrition be similar every single day. And what I mean by that is not eat the same thing every single day, but eat at the same times every single day. Our bodies and our minds, we crave consistency and predictability. So start to foster some of that so that your body can start to get used to, hey, I always go to bed at 10 o'clock and I'm always up at 8. I'm always getting enough sleep because it's at the same time. Setting that circadian rhythm. I know it sounds so simple, and I'm not even talking about lifting weights or what to eat yet. But
that's why I love this. You just have this magical whole person outlook when you're looking at someone. These are such great tips. You meet you a couple years ago when you lost your juice. So now you meet someone like you that lost their juice. What's the next step?
Yeah, so I think it's a series of more questions. Another thing that I'm really big on too, Robin, is just it's understanding the person. You've talked about this on your podcast a few times, getting to the human level. And we do that by asking calibrated questions. Another really big part, especially in the fitness space, is understanding the story that is going on in people's heads. I've had a few authors on my podcast that have written books on this. And once you start to get into this realm and understand that everybody has a voice in their head, life changes, man. As a coach, this is something that has absolutely changed my life. Every single person sees the world differently. Even twins with the same upbringing, everybody sees the world differently. Knowing that, having that awareness is step one. Step two, how can I use that to my advantage as a coach? Everybody has a story on what fitness is, what fitness should be, what fitness feels like, what fit looks like. Everybody has a different motive and prerogative in their mind. So as a coach, or even a spouse, partner, anybody, diving into what are the limiting stories in your mind. There's a big one out there that we hear a lot, is that I'm not fit enough to come to the gym. Again, I'm not fit enough to come to the gym. I'm so out of shape that I can't come to the gym. And we as coaches are sitting there like, that could not be more asinine.
Right.
We want you to walk into this gym to help. Nobody walks into the front doors of a gym at their fittest peak potential. Nobody. But the common story, this is just one of many, is that I have to be at a certain level before I step into the gym. So through our marketing, through some of our language, we try to break some of that down. But in essence, understanding that everybody has a story that is limiting them in some way or another. And as a coach, how can you break through those? One of the best ways to do it is asking, is that true? Is that story true? Where did you get it? Right? Who told you that you don't deserve to look X, Y, and Z? And you can really start to get into some deep parts, deep layers of the onion of people's childhood or things that have been told to them before, or the voice in their head. Something I've learned over the years, Robin, is that not only does everybody have a voice in their head, but a majority of people's voices in their minds are very destructive and mean. They're not very positive. And so that's what really intrigues me about mindset, is getting into the people's voice in their head. I believe I have a very positive inner voice. That's not always the case. So how can we break into some of the people that are frankly really freaking mean to themselves? You'd be surprised.
You and your positivity obviously come across as you're not judgmental, but how do you keep yourself from judging? And more importantly, how do you create an environment where the other people in the gym aren't going to judge, so that when someone shows up the first day, they feel welcomed? That, I imagine, must be a great challenge.
Yeah, this is a softball question. You're going to love it.
Oh,
It's
good.
the it's the Walt Whitman quote: "Be curious, not judgmental."
Yep.
Be curious, not judgmental. And a curious mindset is one that wants to ask questions. You and I are both podcasters. We love asking questions. And you don't have to be a podcaster to ask questions, but living a life where it's a question first, not a response first. We talked about that advice monster earlier. Is a totally different way, a different outlook of life. So instead of having the judgment, and I understand, I get it. It can be hard to not pass judgment. I'm not here saying that I'm perfect on it. We all do it from time to time. But if you can replace a judgment thought with just a simple question, and how you ask it, the tone is very important as well, it can really bring a lot of light to, oh, that's what you were thinking. And it could be something simple as, walk me through what you were thinking here. Where was your mindset on this? And again, how you say it's very important, but being curious, being so curious, not judgmental, has been a very pivotal part in my life. And also the quote of, stay curious a little bit longer. I think that's so crucial. We can all, because most of us can do it, Robin, for about 60 seconds, but can we do it for 5 minutes? Can you do it for an hour? Can you do it for a lifetime?
No doubt. So now I'm going to hit the leadership side of this. So here you are, you're in your environment, whether you're in a corporate office or where you are in a gym. How do you lead both a staff as well as the other members, which are the ones that are going to be interacting with your new members and your clients? How do you lead them to be that way?
Yeah, it's constant communication. I run an education meeting with our team every month, and it's just constantly remembering and bringing this up just as a reminder. I think also too, something that's very simple, but people forget, is using people's first name. We recently did a survey for all 200 members. And one of the biggest things we asked for feedback on, what can we improve on? What do you like about the gym? One of the ironic things that people said about what we like about this gym is that we always get greeted when we walk into the gym. And this is something that we just do naturally. The coaches, whenever somebody walks in, we always greet them by name. Robin, good to see you, right when you walk in. And to us, it's like, it's just who we are. It's not a big deal. But to see it and read it time and time again on surveys of it's really awesome to be greeted by name when walking into the gym. I mean, what a cool way to hear. I mean, that's a huge compliment as a training directors, that people love to be greeted, and that's what we're doing. So to go back to your question, how do we create that environment? One way, obviously, first is to stay curious a little bit longer. Don't be judgmental. But second, use people's names. They love to hear their names, have questions, have conversations. The championships are in relationships. If you want to win championships, be at a high level, you gotta have relationships.
Man, you've dropped so many great quotes on this one. I want to change the title of the episode 5 million times. That's another great one. Championships are in relationships. That is a great one. I'll tell you, when your next book comes out, that'll be it.
It's funny you say that. We're looking at maybe getting into that realm of writing a book. And so if I do get there, I'll definitely be contacting you, asking for some advice.
So we got Train, Educate, Inspire. What out of those three do you start with?
And I think they're all kind of together, right? I think it's one thing to train your athletes, but and the people around you. I think you can't do it though without educating them. If you're just telling them what to do, but not telling them why they're doing what they're doing, you're going to miss out on that. And then inspire, to me, is if you're not in the trenches, or if you're not working hard or giving inspiration to your clients, then, why should they be following you? So to me, they're a trifecta. They all kind of come together. You can't really have one without the other if you want to be a sustainable high achiever.
What's your greatest challenge as a coach, as a teacher, as a leader that you faced, and what did you do to overcome it?
Good question. Yeah. I'm sitting here trying to come up with one, Robin, and I honestly haven't had a lot of really big challenges. And I think that's not trying me saying, look at me, I'm perfect. But I think the reason is because we've created really good communication lines with people. we also understand, we have a really good understanding of what's in our control and what's out of our control. That dichotomy, once you start to grasp that, it's really freeing, and you start to not over worry or overcomplicate the things that are purely outside of your control. A lot of people want to think that they can control a lot of things in life. In reality, that's just not true. So it's going to be a little bit of a cop-out answer. I apologize.
Was there a course writing event, one of those humbling moments many years ago that was probably one of your more profound ahas that kind of got you saying, well, I was missing this one element, and I need to do it a little bit differently here?
You know what? I actually probably get that a little bit every week. So I record a new show every single week. And every week I get a chance to learn something from a high achiever, somebody who's done a lot more than I have. So I feel like it's almost a competitive advantage that I get every single week to learn from somebody. And I keep a notebook here that's full of knowledge, and having that every single week has been a pivotal part of kind of creating this body armor and creating the person that I am today. We always say you become the 5 people you hang around most with. Well, if one of those 5 people are somebody I interview every single week, I mean, right, the possibilities are limitless. So again, these might be cop-out answers, which is challenging me. I'm gonna have to start thinking about this a little bit more, Robin, if there was some pivotal moments. But I think every episode is a chance for me to learn from somebody else and improve my process, my systems, and what I'm doing.
I couldn't agree with you more. There is nothing more rewarding than learning and interacting with amazing people like yourself. DJ, as always, what is something I didn't ask you that you really thought I should have asked you that you want to make sure you share?
Oh man, it's a good question. I think one big part of success in getting into what we call flow states. I have Stephen Kotler on the show, and this was a pivotal part.
Flow states. Yep.
Yeah, about getting into flow. And this, if I do write a book, this will be a big part of the book, because so for those that don't know, flow is the most addictive state on earth. It's more addictive than any other drug out there. And what flow is the moment in time where time vanishes, not thinking, you're just flowing through without having to, slow down or look around you. If you've been in a CrossFit competition at 3, 2, 1, go, you don't know the music, you don't know anything. You're just focusing on the lane in front of you. For authors out there, it's when the words are just flying off the pages. For basketball players, the hoops seems like it's a hula hoop because it's so big you just can't miss. So it's being in the zone. It's not just for athletes. We've all been in the zone at one point or another, and we're all looking for ways to increase the amount of flow. Kotler taught me that the more often we are in flow, the happier we are, the more positive we are, and the longer we actually live. There's been some studies on that, and there's more to come. So we know it's this great thing. How do we get into flow more often?
Yeah. How do we find it?
So Kotler has a bunch of flow triggers that him and his team have discovered. If you guys haven't checked out Stephen Kotler and his books, I highly recommend it. And he talks about, he's got like 22 or 23 flow triggers that him and his team have come up with. And when we talked, he boiled it down to 3 main ones. And I think it's really good way for people to kind of concise it down. There's a lot of them, but 3 main ones. The first one is have clear goals. Have clear goals. We talked about the fitness space is really well known for having clear goals, especially on January 1st, for better or for worse. But the big word there is clear. Are you very clear and intentional about where you're going? Or is it, hey, I just want to lose weight? Right? Not a very clear goal. I want to know how much you want to lose. When do you want to lose it by? Let's get really nitty gritty to what do you want? I heard a quote once that never has left my mind, is live life on purpose with purpose. Have intention and be purposeful about the goals you're trying to achieve. And in order to do that, it needs to be a clear vision of where you want to go. So that's step 1. Step 2, this is the hardest one for most people, complete concentration. Again, complete concentration. We think we're in complete concentration, but we have a phone next to us. We have a kid over here. We have all these other things that are going around us. Being able to eliminate those distractions. And it might sound very easy. Oh, I'll just turn off my phone. It might be more than that. It might be finding an office or an area where you can have complete focus and concentration of what you're doing. The quickest way to get out of flow is to lose concentration, get distracted by your phone. So complete concentration is number 2. Number 3, I kind of put this one in because it's one out of his 22 or 23, but it's my favorite one. It's the skills to challenge ratio. So in order to be in flow, He uses the 4% number. We have to live 4% above our threshold. So right now at a base level, we're all sitting right here. We're comfortable. In order to get into flow, we got to be 4%. We got to be able to just reach a little bit above where we're at. And it's key because if you are above 4%, say you go into a gym and you get your butt kicked on a workout that you had no rhyme or reason doing, it was way above your level, what's going to happen? You're going to get mad, frustrated, checked out. This isn't for me. I'm done. Conversely, you come in to the gym and something is super easy. Maybe you are a CrossFit Games athlete and the workout today is we're going on a walk. Similar kind of response. You get bored. You want to check out. This isn't for me. So the skills to challenge ratio is finding what is 4% above my threshold, just a little bit outside my comfort zone, Robin, just enough to keep me there. Right. We talk about a lot of people that take on instruments. They want to learn an instrument. What do they do during that process? You just learn one little note at a time, one thing, just a little bit above your threshold. And that feeling of tackling just something a little bit above where you're at is, I mean, you can probably remember a time in your life when you've done that. It's very motivating. It's almost, you get on this dangerous momentum because you're feeling yourself get a little bit better every single day. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really big, especially when it comes to tackling goals. It's not the goal that I'm trying to get after. It's not the end game. I'm trying to just get a little bit better every single day, just a little bit. I'm trying to tackle the small wins. That's the skills to challenge ratio. And I think people make a huge mistake there. They try something way beyond where they're at because they're trying to either prove somebody wrong or they think that they have to kill themselves in order to get fit. Or conversely, they're way below their threshold and they're not pushing themselves enough. So again, 3 out of 23 is clear goals, complete concentration, skills to challenge ratio.
I love that. And it's also completely congruent with creating atomic habits, one small little thing at a time. That is probably the best follow-up to what didn't I ask question I've had, because that was great juice in there. Fantastic. DJ, I can't thank you enough for taking time to do this. This was a profound episode of mad skill sharing that I think will benefited me. I know, guaranteed. And I hope it benefited everyone from listening. Where can people find out more about you, DJ?
Hey, this is a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on the show. People can check out my podcast, the MiFit Podcast. It's on Spotify, Apple, wherever you.
And please do, everyone, not to cut DJ off again, but it is a fantastic show. He puts in a tremendous amount of work. His interviewing is above board and his guests are phenomenal. So please check it out. Give him a shout out. Give him a like. Send him a review. So anyway, keep going. Where else?
The separation is in the preparation, Robin. That's for sure. So I always want to make sure I'm prepared. And yeah, follow us on Instagram at the MiFit Podcast. We did an episode with a guy named Dreeke. It was a phenomenal conversation. I highly encourage you guys to check it out. He got a chance. We covered as much as we could of his material. So I highly recommend going and check that out.
Thanks a lot, DJ. And we will catch you next time. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Forged by Trust. If you took away at least one new idea, make a note of it and pass it along to someone else who may need it. If you're interested in more information about how I can help you forge your own trust-building, communication, and interpersonal strategies for yourself or your organization, please visit my website at www.peopleformula.com. I'm looking forward to sharing my next Forged by Trust episode with you next week when we chat with Stephanie Paul, a world-acclaimed keynote speaker, trainer, and coach, as well as founder and head of training and development and communication.